person whose movement I know, as much as I know about movement, the person whose movement I know least about is mine, because
Absolutely.
I can't see myself move. So if I'm doing something wrong or out of sequence or compensating, I can't see it because it feels like a normal squat to me, you
Right.
know. But if somebody else sees it, then they can point it out. So that's the benefit of having a coach or someone watch you move and then retrain you how to move, because retraining movement is so much harder than training a movement, because you're
Absolutely.
fighting against your own brain.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Catalyst for Change podcast, your professional health and fitness team. My name is Jim Adams. I am the owner of Catalyst Personal Training in University City, and I'm here with another member of your team, Nicole Coglianese,
Perfect.
of Citra Fitness and Movement. She teaches Pilates and aerial yoga and all kinds of other stuff that we're going to get into today. So today we're going to be talking about the importance of intentional movement and coordinated breathing with your movement. And we're going to jump into that with Nicole. So, but first I want to welcome you to the show, back to the show, Nicole.
Thank you.
Good. And if you're watching on our YouTube channel, you can see Nicole's cool studio. I don't know what you would call it. It's kind of New York, kind of retro, lofty, modern with some greenery.
I like all those words. That sounds perfect.
So this is where she tortures me, this place. But it's a pretty cool studio. Anyway, welcome back to the show. Glad to have you. And so let's jump right into it. So one of the first questions I asked you before we started recording, and you were yelling at me for drinking my sugar-free Red Bull because I didn't have any ginger root or beet juice laying around, just happen to have. What was
Yeah.
that? What was that stuff you were drinking the other day?
Which one? Oh, it was apple ginger juice.
Apple ginger juice.
Yes.
Actually, that sounds pretty good. Yeah.
See?
Hmm.
See? So our next
Yeah.
podcast, we'll talk about how you shouldn't be drinking things like Red Bull.
Okay.
Sound good?
And all the horrible things it's doing to me.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's bad to be asleep during the podcast, so I had to get a little pick me up. That's my justification.
I have
Anyway,
nothing important to say. You can fall asleep. It's totally fine.
you may take it personally. Um, so let's get into it. Intentional movement. So what do you mean by intentional movement?
So, intentionally moving is being active in what you're actually doing, deciding that you want to make a movement, and then executing it. So, you can take something simple like a lunge, for instance. I want my body to move into a lunge. You've probably seen what a lunge looks like before. And so you step forward and go into a lunge. And then it kind of builds from there after somebody goes through that and then starts to question what they're doing then. How do I execute that movement? What series of muscles do I need to activate? And what order do I need to activate those in order to create that movement? So, again, if we're talking about a lunge, I need to lift my right leg, step forward, bend my right knee, and then engage my back leg, which in this case is the left one. Then, if you want to go even farther than that and start to figure out how to move, what muscles to engage, and in what sequence to engage them, it would be I need to engage my right hip flexor from my core muscles, lift my right knee, lean forward with a strong core, because I'm a Pilates instructor, step down with my right foot, engage my right glute, lift my left inner thigh, lean forward even more. So it's sort of something that develops not only physically, but mentally as well, to be present in the moment of how you're moving and how you want to move.
Yeah, and I guess that's some neurological patterning that you need to happen too. Some of that
Absolutely.
muscle memory, and so that's why you have to, I guess, start slow and intentional.
Mhm.
Because, like Kyle, my jujitsu instructor, tells me all the time, if you can't do it slow, you can't do it fast. So
Absolutely.
you have to, start out slow so that you can move and intentionally engage and bend where you want to bend and where you want to move from, and all of those things to develop and lay down the initial tracks of that new neurological pathway, right?
Correct. And that
Okay.
also goes in the opposite realm too. If you want to correct a certain movement, you have to be aware that it needs to be corrected first and realize that it is a habitual pattern that you're doing, because your body will move the way that you've taught it to move. So if you want to train it to move differently, you have to be aware of how you want to change those patterns. And that can also go into emotional, like if you want to get into the more metaphysical ways of thinking, I carry my stress in my shoulders. When I get stressed, that's my cue to say, how can I do differently here? What can I do differently to relax my shoulders so that I don't hold stress there?
Okay. Yeah. And then when you're well, like I said on the last time I had you on the show, the person whose movement I know, as much as I know about movement, the person whose movement I know least about is mine, because I
Absolutely.
can't I can't see myself move. So if I'm doing something wrong or out of sequence or compensating, I can't see it because it feels like a normal squat to me,
Right.
but if somebody else sees it, then they can point it out. So that's the benefit of having a coach or someone watch you move and then retrain you how to move, because retraining movement is so much harder than training a movement, because you're
Absolutely.
fighting against your own brain.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you know who Moshe Feldenkrais is. Um,
Hmm.
okay, cool. So
Hmm.
he wrote the book Awareness Through Movement.
Hmm.
Um, he talks about how I don't like to use this word, but higher brain, so more of our frontal lobe where the cognitive functions happen, being disconnected from that automatic part of your brain. So the brainstem and the lower areas of the brain. So the more that you can find a connection between the two of those to say, this is what I want to do versus this is what I've done all the time, that's
Hmm.
when you can really start to create controlled movements that look good for starters, but are also beneficial for your body as well. And when I say look good, dancers do a lot of very beautiful movements because they have total control over where their body is in space and the way that they're executing their movements.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it. I like that. So that's intentional movement, and there's layers, there's levels to that, obviously, because as those neurological tracks get deeper and deeper, then you're able to fine tune it, right?
Mhm.
And that's why sometimes it takes a long time to get to where you want to go.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we are a whole organism as well. So as soon as you retrain one thing, for instance, a squat, where the hips are going or the tilt of the pelvis, then your shoulders are like, wait a second, we've been doing this way for how long? Now we
Hmm.
have to start changing as well. So it's pretty
Okay.
complicated, this whole movement thing.
Yeah, it's complicated and simple at the same time.
Totally.
Um, so let's get into now the coordinated breath with the movement. What is the importance of that?
Well, breathing in general is kind of a mystery to us. We're not really sure what neurons are firing with breath and the sequence that they fire in. So, breath in general, yeah, enjoy your Red Bull, is pretty mysterious to humanity right now. Even the active breathing, like, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure if I, pull my diaphragm down first and open up my ribs in order to take a breath, or if that signal first comes to my brain. I'm not really sure. I can't explain how to breathe to someone. It's just something that happens automatically for us. And it is controlled in the brainstem. So there's a couple other functions of our body, like our heartbeat, eye movement, swallowing, blood pressure, body temperature, that's also controlled in that part of the brain. And those are things that we don't have to think about happening throughout the day and even when we're asleep. Those are pretty much, unless we're going through some sort of crisis, shock, or sickness, those things are pretty well regulated. Breathing, swallowing, eye movement, those are things that we also can control. So they're automatic when we need them to be automatic, and then we can control them when we decide to. So breathing and intentional breathing allows us to be in the actual moment that we are in, because we have to control this thing that's usually automatic for us. So our brain is in the moment with us, and that can be connected immediately to intentional movement because it allows us to be present to what we are doing, and your brain can't be off thinking about multiple things when it has to be in that moment, present and fully aware of what the body's doing.
Yeah, I like that. And isn't there some advantage anatomically to coordinating your breathing with your movement?
Sure. Some people like to inhale on the effort. Some people like to exhale. I usually tell people if they have high blood pressure that they should inhale when they're exerting and exhale when they're relaxing. Um, but with yoga, we say that if you inhale when you're stretching, which is usually the exertion, that helps to lengthen the spine and open up the rib cage as well. So you create a little bit more space, a little bit more stretch.
Yeah. And I like that you describe it as a mystery because unless somebody points it out to you, you never think about your breathing.
Yep.
It just kind of is going on in the background. But at the same time, they're like when you do have to even when you are concentrating on your breathing, you're not thinking how you're breathing. Like if you sprint or you get out of breath, you're not thinking, oh, well, I better pull my diaphragm in. You're just thinking, I better get some air in this body soon or I'm going to die.
Correct. Correct. Even simple movements too, like getting out of a chair. I mean, do you really know how you're doing that? Like what muscles you first engage? Do you first pull your feet back slightly underneath you, engage your core and lean forward, press down into your feet, engage the hamstrings or the glutes? I mean, the simplest things, we really don't know what we're doing unless you actively think about it.
Well, and that's the beauty of the human body and human movement too, is that if you get those pathways right, then not only can you perform complex tasks easily, but you can actually look very beautiful, like you were talking about the dancers while you do it. So that's the beauty of human movement. But I think when you focus on your breathing, like when you kind of are instructing people to either belly breathe or breathe into their rib cage, do you think that helps them to breathe better or coordinate their breath better with their movement?
I do. It's relaxing if you can control your breath and have someone else coach you as well as to how to breathe and when to breathe. I think that's very helpful. There's a concept in yoga called effort and ease. And I think that breathing definitely helps with that as well. So the idea with, and my Sanskrit is terrible, I think it's satira and sukha. So the first word, which I know I'm not doing a good job of pronouncing, is like strength or activity. And sukha is more of a soft or effortless movement.
Mm.
And I think if we can control our breath, it's much easier to find ease where you need to find that ease and where to initiate that effort. So, for instance, if you are in a lunge, what muscles need to be active and what muscles don't? Because if you're engaging muscles that don't need to be activated, then you're really not getting into the position that you want to be in as beneficial as it could be, but you could also be pulling different bones and the different structures of your body in ways that aren't really beneficial as well. And I see that specifically in lunges where people will have their front knee, it might be bent at the correct angle that I'm looking at, but it starts to turn inward. And instead of pulling the hip back like we want, their inner thigh starts to try to take over and pull that knee inward and forward. So I think breathing can definitely help with that and teach the body where it can relax and where it needs to engage. Just
Yeah.
like
Just like
in a
what?
just like breath, an inhale is active, and exhale is somewhat active, but a little bit more relaxation.
Yeah. But I think that's a good point that you brought up at the beginning too about the breathing, how that can kind of set the tone. It can get you into parasympathetic or sympathetic. It could hype you up or it can calm you down. It's one of those things where the dose is the poison, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Eye movement as well. And Feldenkrais, which I'm sure you know, also goes into coordinated eye movement with body movement or physical movement as well.
Yeah. Can you say more about that?
I wish I could. I haven't gone into it too much,
Okay. Okay. All right.
but that's an area that I'm looking to go into. I do teach it somewhat with the thoracic movements that I do in class. And I've noticed that people can actually move farther, or their range of motion is farther when they connect their eyes to what they're doing. So, or their vision to what they're doing. So it's a cool thing.
Yeah, well, it goes back to what you were saying about how we are a complex organism that is dependent on one part working with the other. So it makes sense that if you get the eyes working with the body or looking to where you want to go, then the body naturally wants to go there. So that makes perfect sense. So, but we'll let you learn more about that, get
Thank you.
certified, or do some research, and then we'll come
Podcast
back
for
and
the future.
exactly. So stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned. All right. Well, Nicole, tell people where they can find you, connect with you, take a class. What classes do you offer? All of that good stuff.
Absolutely. So I offer traditional yoga classes, and those are at Sweetums in Dogtown, Tam and Clayton Avenue. Also at Schlafly Tap Room on Wednesday nights. And I have recently partnered up with SweatNet STL, and we're going to have drop sound headphones with that. So immersion, which will be really neat. And then I also teach a full moon class once a month at Jefferson Underground, and that's an hour and a half long. So you can find all of those classes on my website, which is Citra, CITRA, fitness, spelled commonly.com. I also teach aerial yoga and reformer Pilates in my studio in Midtown. I'm located at Jefferson and Locust, and you can check out those classes on my website and also MindBody as well.
All right. There you go, folks. Go stop. I highly recommend it. Stop by and you will develop a love-hate relationship, guaranteed. So Nicole, until next time, thanks for being on the team. We appreciate having you and talking about movement. So until next time, we hope you guys are well. And Nicole, you have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Yeah.